My name's Paul, welcome to Paul Perambulates. In this episode I'm in South Wales's Bannau Brycheiniog, in the Mynyddoedd Duon, the Black Mountains, walking the Waun Fach Horseshoe. My start and finish point is the village of Llanbedr near Carrig-calch, postcode NP81SR, grid reference SO23972037. What 3 words? Smart, tiny, pizzeria. On day 1, I climb up to Crug-calch, the Iron Age hill fort on Table Mountain, and then traverse a range of peaks heading for the northernmost point of the horseshoe, namely Carrig-calch, Pen Allt-mawr, Pen Gadair, Mynyddoedd Duon, Pen Mawr, and the northernmost point itself, Waun Fach. I then turn back southwards down the other side of the horseshoe, going over the summit of Pen y Gadair Fawr and camping overnight on its southern side. On day 2, I continue southward via Pen Mawr, Pen Carrig-calch to the trig point at Crug Mawr. From there, I take the Beacons way back down to Llanbedr. Total distance 25.7 kilometres. Total height gain 970 metres. Total walking time 8 hours and 34 minutes. So here we are in the typical British village of Llanbedr. Pub, Red Lion, the church. And coming round the corner, these cars here, I would imagine, are probably hill walkers. And there's really not much space for parking here. So I've wedged in by the wall there, only because there are some roadworks just after that come out wider than my car. And that illustrates the difficulty of parking in Llanbedr. So if I were you, I would car share or get dropped off if you possibly can. Just before I start my big climb, I find these. And without going into too much detail, they've arrived at a very opportune time for me. Don't count on them being here when you come. As with any good mountain horseshoe, the pleasure of this route is walking along the ridge and topping out all the peaks. The pain is getting up there at the start, and this one is certainly no exception. I am at this very moment on that huge long climb, but it will be worth it. Part way up the route I'm using to get up onto the top, there's an activity centre, limitlesstrails.co.uk. Free advert for them, but I used their toilet, so fair's fair. It seems as though the activity centre have very obviously signposted the route up, so if you struggle a bit with navigation, that's going to be helpful. As the sign says, this is sheep country, so if you are bringing your dog, keep an eye on it. When I said they're making it easy for non-navigators, I wasn't kidding. Don't go that way. Go that way. Don't go that way. Standing now on Table Mountain, flat area. Part of the climb is done. The rest you can see behind me. Just behind me, stone shelter. And also around here, Crug-calch, Iron Age hill fort. And why wouldn't you build one here? Because there are some fantastic views. You could see people coming from, well, anywhere really. And by the time they'd done that climb, they'd be too tired to fight you. On the climb up towards Carrig-calch now, You can see some people there in the distance. I'm not alone on the mountain today. It is a weekday in term time, which is my preferred time, but it's a very popular route, so there are always going to be people. Looking around from here, just over to the west, you can see Pen y Fan, Corndee, coming round, Llanbedr, and then we're looking back the way we've come, looking back at the Table Mountain. Still heading up towards Carrig-calch. It was steep to start with. It's flattened out a little now. It's a long old climb, but the paths are good, as you'd expect on any route that's as well known as this one. Especially this time of year, early autumn, it's not too bad. We're at the trig point now, on top of Carrig-calch. The views aren't particularly brilliant from here because it's a flat topped hill, so the ridges around the edge of the top of the hill obscure the views a little bit. You can see Sugarloaf just over there. It's more of a way marker than anything. That said, Pen y Fan, Corndee stand out nicely over to the west, and we can see most of the beacons. 50 yards along from that trig point, we've got this rather large stone shelter. One of the bigger ones I've seen in my wanders around Wales. Quite a lot of room inside. Good bivvy spot. Coming down off Carrig-calch, we can see most of the rest of our route. So over there, the very highest point, Waun Fach. The one next to it that looks just as high, Pen y Gadair Fawr, in the middle of the picture. That's hopefully where I'll be pitching tonight. And then tomorrow morning, back along that ridge, and dropping back down to Llanbedr. There are a lot of stone shelters on this route. This one perched right on the edge of the ridge and gives us a really fantastic view down the valley. I'm at Pen Mawr, which has another excellent stone shelter. Great bivvy point. A really sad sight though is the trig point, which is lying on its side. Now it's difficult to imagine that the wind could have done that to a trig point. It's also difficult to imagine that anyone who had enough about them to actually get up here would then be witless enough to do that deliberately. Let's hope not. If anybody does know, let me know in the comments. This is what the damage looks like. I have a vague memory from having been here before that it was on quite a lean then. Maybe it just eroded away and then fell under its own weight. That would be the most satisfying explanation, I suppose. Oh, the shelter is amazing. It even has what is effectively a chair. I think I found my lunch spot. What is absolutely not a sorry sight is the view from here, which is absolutely staggering. We're going to drop down here shortly, and then we'll go and meet the nearer ridge at Pentwyn Glass, and then we'll carry on along up that ridge over Mynyddoedd Duon, around the end up onto the highest point of the route, Waun Fach. From there back along the far ridge to Pen y Gadair Fawr, where we will be camping overnight. Tomorrow morning, from there, along the ridge, over Pen y Mawr, down to Crug Mawr at the far end, and then drop down into Llanbedr. Coming down off Pen y Mawr, a very steep descent. Walking poles recommended. These guys are a very familiar sight in the Bannau Brycheiniog. Heading up from Pen y Gadair to Mynyddoedd Duon, we find these. They might look like gravestones, but they are actually boundary stones, marking the parishes. I'm on top of Mynyddoedd Duon now, and from here I get a great view of the sides of Pen y Gadair Fawr and Waun Fach. I'm shortly going to be going on, up and around to get on top of those. Coming up onto Waun Fach now, and ahead of us here we've got a little scramble. Definitely going to have to get hands on rock here, but it's not too bad, so I don't anticipate it being too much of a problem. The rest of the way up Waun Fach, we've got these excellent, well-maintained footpaths. Sitting at the top of Waun Fach, 810 metres up, so the highest point on the route. Theoretically downhill all the way now, although I know it isn't. I've been here on a previous episode in the series, although that time I came from a completely different direction, but it hasn't changed. Anyway, I made it. Standing on top of Pen y Gadair Fawr, bit windy here, 800 metres high, so not quite as high as Waun Fach, more of a proper mountain in my opinion. Anyway, got here, no more mountain climbing today, so next job's find a campsite, find some water. A little way down the hill from the campsite we found the Holy Grail, running water. May not be much, but that'll do us. I've taken some out already. It looks pretty clear, so that is okay. That's the water problem solved, and now the campsite. We're in the lee of the mountain here. We want to be as close as we can, so that keeps the wind off, but equally you have to go a certain distance away for the slope to go off, because you want to be on the flat. So this is our campsite. Here we are, all set up, in good nick for the night. Temperature's dropped a bit, hence the woolly hat, but we're in a good place. Morning everyone, it's about 5:15 AM and I'm lying here nice and toasty warm in my sleeping bag. However, one of the great privileges of wild camping is to be on a mountain at dawn. So as that's happening in about 3/4 of an hour's time for me to get up,
get myself ready to go out and enjoy it. This is the view out of my tent door this morning. Stove going in the foreground, and in the background we can see where we walked yesterday. Carrig-calch, Allt-mawr. First coffee of the day as the sun comes up. Cheers.
The Mynyddoedd Duon, the Black Mountains, are looking resplendent in the dawn light, as indeed are the rest of the Bannau Brycheiniog. There's some cloud on the tops way over to the west, but that's far away, and that's not my problem this morning. Sun's up, breakfast done, lovely. The morning is well and truly advancing now. I'm packed up, ready to go. This is where I camped. Like any good wild camper, I've left it so that you would never know. And that's the way I'm heading today, down to the right of those trees, following the ridge along, over Pen y Mawr, Crug Mawr, and then down into Llanbedr. Ordnance survey map shows a big area of forest along this ridge, but they've been at work with the soil here, and all we got now is stumps bleached white by the weather. I'm standing on top of Pen y Mawr now, looking across at Carrig-calch, and I can see almost all the route I walked yesterday. Went along to Allt-mawr, dropped down off the end of that to Pen y Gadair, carried along over Mynyddoedd, up that scramble, round to Waun Fach, which I can't see quite. In front of that though I can see Pen y Gadair Fawr, where I've come from this morning. Like me, the ponies are enjoying a beautiful day in the mountains. Excellent view of Crug Mawr as we approach it, against the backdrop of what is turning into a really nice day. And that is going to be our last big climb of the route. At the trig point on top of Crug Mawr now. Behind me, absolutely magnificent view up the valley, right the way up to Waun Fach and Pen y Gadair Fawr. Now we've got to the bottom end of the ridge though, we can see the other way, and we can see all these beautiful rolling hills. We can now see Pennyval, Sugarloaf and Ysgyryd Mawr, the Ysgyryd, and the beautiful rolling countryside of Monmouthshire. Looking back north again, we can see almost the whole of the Waun Fach Horseshoe. Coming down off the hill now, we're on the Beacons Way path, which runs right through the Brecon Beacons. So a very, very well known path, and as you might expect, very well worn and nice and easy to walk. On the final bit of the descent now, down through farmland and woodland, back down to Llanbedr. Bit tricky navigation wise. You need to have your wits about you. You need to know what you're doing really with a map and compass. I've managed to successfully find my way down. I can hear the river now. I can actually see the bridge now. But yeah, on this bit, take some care with your navigation. I'm standing here in front of Llanbedr's rather excellent church. I've just had a chance encounter with the vicar, who was able to tell me that it was first begun in 1063, pre-Norman conquest. Most of the work was done in the 11th and 14th centuries. Now, as picturesque as Llanbedr is, as a location to begin and end this walk, it's not Llanbedr we're here to talk about. If it weren't for these trees, you'd be able to see Carrig-calch up there, part of the Waun Fach Horseshoe, the walk that I've just completed. In terms of difficulty, I'm giving it 7 out of 10. It's 17.5 miles, 28 kilometres, plenty of long, steep climbs. It will test your legs and you'll need to have the fitness if you want to complete it. In terms of the quality of the walk though, absolutely fantastic. There are so many points along the walk where you get fantastic views of not just the Black Mountains but the rest of the Brecon Beacons and other parts of South Wales. It's a very well known walk, plenty of people have found out how good it is, so I thoroughly recommend that you join them and get out there and do it. All maps and 3D fly-throughs provided by kind permission of Ordnance Survey through their excellent OS Online application. Big thanks also for all music used in this video to mixkit.co, pixabay.com and upbeat.io. Specific song and artist credits can be found in the comments. These videos are designed to show you around the routes I walk in case you're considering doing them yourself. They are not designed to be any kind of hill walking training or guidance. If you need hill walking skills, obtain them in person from a reputable, qualified provider. Please don't attempt these walks without appropriate levels of fitness and equipment. If you don't have the required levels of knowledge and experience, only undertake them accompanied by somebody who does. You can find out more about me and my background and experience at my website paulperambulates.co.uk. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Paul Perambulates. If you did, please subscribe and share.